Hey everyone, welcome to the Not Financial Advice Podcast. I'm here with these boys. I'm going to chat about some cool shit. My name is Ryan Hayward. I'm a tech founder and entrepreneur and also 21 years old. And yeah, I'm just going to answer whatever questions these boys throw at me, and hopefully we can provide some value for everyone listening at home.
That was great. Holy shit. It's a
I've done it a few times. It's okay.
Ryan is our very first person on the podcast besides Terrence.
Yeah.
And so this is actually a very special episode. Ryan, where are you from? Like, we know, but give us a bit of a history about you.
So yeah, currently based in Melbourne, grew up in a small country town in Victoria, Australia, moved to the city a couple of years ago, started working as a web designer at a pretty large company. Then COVID happened, the world went to shit and we were all forced to go remotely. Fortunately at the time, I had or still do, run a design community of 90,000 designers where we were running online events even before the pandemic for that audience. And then, obviously with the world and events going all online and digital, there came a huge kind of niche that came out of nowhere, which was online events. And after running our own events for a past few years, we know all the problems with them, and we decided to build our own platform. So that's what we're currently up to. We're building a platform to humanize the web, especially with online events. So that's me.
Wow.
Jesus.
That's very impressive. So tell us more about PitchProof. That's the one.
Sure.
Yeah, so PitchProof actually started as a piece of software for logo designers specifically to actually present their work to clients. Now, this was back in like 2019, and that went pretty well. There was a few issues with the platform and reasons that I won't get into in terms of why it wouldn't scale. So we made a pivot, and we were growing an Instagram account at the time to do marketing. And with that came, a bit of an audience. And then we pivoted to just going 100% into like doing events and online education, and the thing just blew up. If you go onto any sort of like designer account or entrepreneurial account on Instagram at the moment, it's all these like carousels, right? PitchProof was one of the first accounts on Instagram, especially in the creative niche, because I think that's where it started, to go full in on carousels. Like no one was really doing it like daily. And we posted for like one post per day for at least a year, just like consistently of new content in the carousel format, and we blew up. Like there was a period where we were gaining like 1,000 followers per day for 30 days. Like it was insane. We got to about 5,000 followers and it just went up to like 30,000, 60,000. Now I think we're seeing around 85, 90,000. So like it was just like a huge kind of growth in a small period of time. And then, here we are today, and the algorithms changed once again. Now it's all on TikTok and Reels and all these other things. So, you got to play a new sort of strategy when it comes to content.
Wow. So when I go on Instagram and I see all the different videos for like designers and all the different carousel posts, your company basically started that.
No, again, we wouldn't take credit for it at all. I'm just saying I was a very early adopter in that sort of niche in terms of carousels. And it just has a domino effect, right? Like one person does it, they see it gets traction, so the next person does it, and then it spreads out and essentially creates this virality. I saw people doing carousels before us, so I wouldn't take credit for it at all. But there are definitely people in the space that, um, use that platform of carousels to create a lot of noise, and it works. Like the algorithm loved it, people loved it, therefore that everyone else started doing it because they knew it worked.
Wow, that's very humble of you
Yeah.
to say that. I feel like a lot of people just come out and say, "Oh yeah, I created it," but wow, that's very humble of you.
Yeah, but like nothing's original, right, guys? Like it's just content at the end of the day. People come up with these YouTube videos, right? Like the first person to post a video on YouTube, that's original, I guess, right? People just copy what works. You got these big kind of creators out there and people just copy them all the time. It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing just as long as you're not like directly stealing exactly everything that they've done. It's good to copy things from other creators. You just have to kind of apply your own taste to it, that adds value in a different way.
Mm. I think with that, I think one thing that's becoming really big, particularly on YouTube, kind of what you mentioned, is the whole Mr. Beast style of videos. I would say he was original when it came to like I spent 50 days in a coffin or like those sort of style of videos, and now kind of like what you said, everyone's starting to, or not copy
No,
him, but model him.
I'd say he started the winning money.
Yeah.
And then like for challenges, but yeah.
All right. So with PitchProof, what would you say is like we of course we don't want to get too much into it. And if you're not comfortable sharing like certain details, that's completely fine. But what would you say is like the income generated from that, from having such a
Look, I
large
won't give you specific amount, but I can break down what our revenue streams are and what's made the most, I guess. So majority of our income comes from brand partnerships and ticket sales. So when we run events, for a particular an example, we've got a conference called Front Row that we've been running for the past 3 years. It's all been digital. That's our biggest moneymaker, and the two kind of revenue streams that we run from that. I mean, there's multiple different things, but the two biggest is ticket sales and brand partnerships. So brand partnerships are what you'd expect. So things like sponsorships and all these other things where we actually work with a brand to essentially market their product through our event. So that can involve things like ad placements or promotions on our Instagram and anything in between. And because we're fairly niche, the more we can actually charge for that, considering their audience size. So that's quite a pretty good income stream to have. And then the other one's ticket sales. So we have a pretty good model when it comes to our events. Like we always have a free plan, right? So anyone can attend our event from anywhere in the world for free. And the reason that is because we actually have a quite a large majority of people in our audience who are from countries like India or other third world countries where the dollar isn't as valuable. So we always try to create a free plan so that education is accessible to everyone, like good education should be, right? And then we obviously have, paid ticketing, which has a little bit more of a higher value for those people who can afford it and want to take the extra step to actually furthering their design career. So, yeah, at the end of the day, they've always been our two kind of main pillars for making money with PitchProof.
Can we say a number and you say up and down for like the overall, would you say, like revenue? Can we do that or?
Sure. So like it varies, right? Like I can give you some specific numbers. So like we've signed $30,000 brand deals before, but we've also done $500 brand deals, right? Like it varies depending on the partner and I guess what you're offering. And the other thing to keep in mind there is like your price will always go up over time. So what I was charging 3 years ago for a sponsorship, I'm charging like 10 times that today. Like just because the audience size grows, we're more experienced, we're more confident in our value and what we're offering to that partner. So the price is going to change. So it's hard to actually I know what we made last financial year. I put it together the other day, but like if you're running a good business, the money should always go up.
Of course.
Yeah.
All right. Let's say 5 million.
I was gonna go way less, but
A little less.
like 2 million.
No, we're not in the millions range. Again, it's a pretty, I'd almost call it a lifestyle business. Like we put a lot of money back into it, and it's still a relatively small business. Like I mentioned, this other business that we're trying to build at the moment with the event platform, I think that's going to be our money maker at the end of the day, just because the scalability of it is so huge. Like it's a tech business. It's a software business. Like the ability to scale that is insanely massive because it's not built on the model of scale where you need more employees as you grow. Like software is scalable. It doesn't matter if you've got 10 people on there or 10,000, like your bottom line is still pretty similar in terms of, what you need to pay to actually run that software. And yeah, the more customers you have, the more profit you make.
That's that's very interesting. So all the money you make, you just recycle it back in to make more profits.
Yeah, well, like as much as you can, right? Like at the end of the day, you need to put a roof over your head. Like I rent this place, like it's a 3 bedroom place in Melbourne. Like Melbourne isn't super cheap, unfortunately. But it's the cheapest I could basically find for the place that we wanted. So you have to pay yourself and you have to make sure you live. But at the end of the day, if you can invest your money back into your business, like the returns on that, if you're doing it right, should be pretty damn good.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I was just gonna say. So you said like you're not in the million. So like you haven't actually like the whole business hasn't generated over like a million. Let's just say over a million. Or like you haven't taken that much out of like the profit. Like
Yeah, we haven't taken that much out. Like I mentioned, we kind of put everything back into the business. And the other thing I'll mention here too is I think there's two types of entrepreneurs, and I think you guys, and I kind of describe this as like there's a type A and there's a type B. I think you guys and your audience, you're more type A, and I'm more type B. So type A and type B have nothing to correlate against one another, but type A to me is like your Gary Vee. So it's your people who are very money driven and they want to take $1 and turn it into $2. They love the game of chasing money and they love the game of making money. Then there's the type B entrepreneur, people like me, the founders, the people who find and found Uber and Amazon and Google and all these other companies. They're the people who are problem solvers. They want to solve big problems, and with that comes money. So to me, I'm about solving big problems. What problems am I currently facing? What problems are other people facing? And how can I solve that with tech and creativity? That's my niche. That's the thing I'm really good at. And that's the thing I do my best at every day. And the reward of that is that I solve people's problem and they pay me money for it.
Wow.
fair enough.
That's I never thought of it that way. That's a good take.
That's like your sixth wow. But yeah.
Well, I'm very impressed actually.
Yeah.
Like you're quite young, and it's. I mean, like we're younger than you, of course.
yeah.
Like you're older than us.
How old are you guys? You're 17?
I turned 16 the other day actually, which is pretty cool. Yeah. So
Oh god, so you guys like born in like what, 2004, 2005?
2006. Yeah. Yeah.
When I walk into, I give anyone shit who I work with. Like I've got a couple of co-founders, and one's like 40, one's like 30, and I give them shit because they're born in the 1900s, right? But you guys make me feel like, oh, that's not fair.
Yeah. Well, how did you get started? Did you start off with like learning digital design, or when you started PitchProof, did you come in and like you just grew the business? Like what's your role in that, and how did you start?
Yeah, for sure. So my background is in design. So I actually started freelancing and running my first business as a designer when I was 14 years old. So kind of how that started was I was entering design contests online where essentially, clients would come on the internet and they'd go, hey, I want this logo or website or illustration or whatever it was. And a bunch of different designers would compete to essentially create the winning design. And then whatever the design the client chooses, that's the designer who gets paid. For creatives on the market, it's a really bad model because you don't get paid for your time, especially not all the time, especially when you only win like 2-3% of them. But as a place to find work and practice your work, it's a really good place to do it. So that's kind of how I started. And over 2-3 years, I did everything from logo designs to websites to animations to 3D renders, like everything you can think of. I probably did it for a client at some point. And then, yeah, that's kind of how we got into PitchProof, being in the design space. And again, I knew there was a problem with presenting logos. Like everyone was doing it through PDFs. And I'm like, this is boring. Like it's like people just email their PDF and that's kind of it. And you just go send. There was no presentation factor to it. So that's why we invented PitchProof initially, to kind of solve that problem. And then, yeah, like I mentioned, one thing led into another, and then we pivoted a couple of times and we went from content to online events to now back into software and running our own sort of product.
Wow.
Yeah, geez, okay.
So so you're 14 and you started entering into all these contests. When did you start to see these side hustles actually pick up?
Oh, geez. I reckon probably around 16, there was starting to get a fair bit of traction, like consistent work. So between like 14 and 16, it was like work on and off, just like when I kind of got it, I got it. and then around 16, 17 is when I actually started to get work consistently. So it was on a regular basis. Like I knew there was clients in the pipeline. Like I knew there was money coming in. And then, obviously once COVID hit and you get big boy money, when you're, dropped out of school and well, not dropped out of school, but finished school, and then you've, go get a job and things like that, like, then it's another level. And, when I was able to commit myself full time and not have to worry about a 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. for schooling, then that's when shit got real.
I think that's a really big issue even for us. It's for a lot of entrepreneurs who are teenagers. It's a pain in the ass.
Aspiring entrepreneurs. But
yeah, it's a pain in the ass just having to go to school every day, because first it's 6 hours out of your day, 5 times a week, and then you've got homework, assessments, commitments, like those sort of things. So
Sure, it sucks, right? Like you do lose a lot of time. Like majority of my high school life was coming home at 3:30 and working to 10 at night on my business. Like that was the life. Now that's pretty shitty to be honest, but it's just what I wanted to do. I didn't really care too much about school. To be honest, my grades weren't that good towards the end of school because I just did not care. I'm like, I want to do business. I want to do this. I know what I'm doing. I don't need school. And this is the path for me. But it is something difficult to juggle, and I'm sure you guys are experiencing this too at the moment, because I have lived it. Like you still have to pass, you still have to get through school, unless you want to drop out and do something else. But like that is a difficult conversation to have and something really difficult to actually achieve. So like it is a balance, but what I would say is just like embrace it. Like school is so easy compared to once you leave and you actually have to pay bills. Like it's so easy if you've got a roof over your head, if your parents support you, like you are doing really well. Like take the advantage and like use that 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. every night to do something crazy. Like don't even worry about the money, just go out there and just experiment. Don't have to worry about, oh, I need to make $1,000 this month, I need to make $2,000 this month. Like just experiment, just play around and see what you're good at, see what you enjoy. Because when you leave school and you actually have responsibilities and you have to like pay a consistent amount of money each month, like your priorities will change a bit because you need cash in the bank.
Yeah. Okay.
wow. Okay.
That's like the 7th wow, right?
Yeah. But so okay, well, what is your opinion on like in Australia we have university, but what's your opinion on college, university, whatever it may be?
Yeah, for sure. So I think it's a tough one, right? So my girlfriend is studying to be a high school teacher, and I'm super proud of her for actually wanting to do that. She's super passionate about it, and like me, she's grown up in a rural environment, and her whole take on it and why she wants to do it is she knows there's this huge gap between like metropolitan education and rural education. So city kids versus rural kids, right? Like there's a gap in what sort of education they're receiving. So she wants to essentially bridge that gap in education, and it's a really important point. Um, Now, with universities and things, I think, again, it depends what you want to do. If you want to do basically anything in tech, anything in creativity, anything in entrepreneurship, anything that doesn't necessarily require a degree, university might not be the right path. If you need to be a doctor, a scientist, you want to be, I don't know, something else that legally requires a degree, then guess what? You got to do university. And a big part of like I'm fortunate enough to actually get to like work with some of these universities here in Melbourne and do some like at the moment I'm working with a couple of them to do some like just like some things with their classes and things like that. And it's just really interesting to see the dynamic of how these students actually engage with the classes, right? To be honest, they're all kind of real bored, and you can see that just from the ones I've worked with, like 99% of them are probably either going to drop out or they're going to work in the industry they are doing their degree for like a year, and then they're going to go do something else. Because the reality is they've kind of been pushed into this system by their parents or someone else, and like it's just not built for them. Yeah. So as I was saying, I'll summarize it like this: university isn't for everyone. You just need to know who you are.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, there's And I'm sure you can agree on this. There's like with like Gen Z, there's like a massive shift in people just going to university, because with like, let's say all of our parents, they were saying yes, university is the only way to, you know, be successful in life. But I think now with the internet and now blockchain technology coming out, we're starting to see a giant shift towards, you know, you don't really need to go to uni anymore. You don't need a degree.
Sure. And a big part of that is that the information is just outdated. Like, we live in a world where what was new yesterday isn't new today. Like, everything changes every day. And, you know, like with these kind of newer industries coming out, especially in tech and things that are actually running the world, like you can't teach that. Like, there's not a class at the moment in Australia for Bitcoin. Like, there might be something digital online, but not in university, or, you know, there's nothing taught about Web3 or stuff like that. Um, and like that stuff's going to be really important, but like this, the way that universities are set up is they're so outdated, and half the problem isn't the actual university itself, it's actually the infrastructure that's built around it. You know, there's so many different aspects of how a university runs, so to actually update the content and make it, you know, modern, by the time that actually happens, it's already 5 years too late.
Yeah, I think that's the same with textbooks, even with schools.
Yeah.
They take so long to update that it's just impossible to keep up.
Yeah, it does, which then proposes the question, why are there textbooks in schools?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, isn't that a bad model within itself?
You're right. But okay, I want to move on to more onto you. So, do you have any like investments? Do you go into index funds, stock, crypto? What's that? What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, sure. So the Web3 space is really interesting to me, and we can dive into that a little bit more if you want. I dabble a little bit with crypto and investing in things like that. I'm not like a huge, not huge in it just yet, but I am just starting to play some cards and seeing how it feels. Like, I think like my biggest win with crypto was like buying like $10 worth of Dogecoin back in like 2020 and seeing that rise to 100. But to be honest, I completely forgot about it, so now I think it's like fallen again. So yeah, like I've got like $1,000 in Bitcoin and Ethereum and things like that. Nothing major. I just kind of want to explore it a little bit more and kind of wrap my head around it a bit better before trying to, you know, put some serious cash in there.
Mm. And what about NFTs? What do you think about that?
NFTs is really interesting to me. I think the whole technology behind it and this kind of decentralized internet that we're creating is going to be really, really important. There's still a lot of issues with that space. Like, yeah, I'm a huge believer in the technology. I think it's really going to change the world, and it's going to be something that's going to become mainstream. Just like social media is today, or the internet is today, that's what Web3 is going to be in, I don't know how many years, 5, 10 years, I'm not sure what it is. The problem I have with Web3 at the moment, and if you're familiar with like the VC and the investment space in America at the moment, if you put Web3 in your business title, like investors will just line up to roll you money. Like, they will just give you millions and millions of dollars because, you know, it's this new and exciting thing. It's the same with, what you call it, like Oculus, like, what's that called? Like the metaverse sort of
Yeah.
thing. Yeah, virtual reality a few years ago, right? If you're running a business or building a platform around virtual reality, investors would just line up to give you money. And I think we're starting to see this trend again with Web3, where everyone's trying to just be trendy and build businesses that are trendy, not necessarily solving problems. And that's the biggest thing with the issue with Web3 that I'm seeing today. Now, Web3 solves a huge amount of problems, right? Like, the technology is incredible, but people are building, you know, the TikTok, but for Web3, the Uber, but for Web3, the Google, but for Web3. Now, some of them solve problems, but majority of them are just trying to be trendy and just trying to play in this new era of the internet. And the reality is that's not going to build a long-lasting business. Web3 isn't mainstream yet. Like, if I told my parents to join a platform that's built on Web3 and they have to sign in with MetaMask, like, they'd go, "What the fuck is that?" You know, like there's too many barriers to entry at the moment for Web3, and I don't think there's enough companies actually solving real problems using that technology. So until we get to a state where that starts to change and Web3 is the actual problem solver to a lot of different problems, then it will start to become more mainstream. But until that point, and I'm sure it's going to happen, I'm not sure when that's going to happen. It might be a while off yet, but until that point, it still seems a bit airy fairy to me. And yeah, like that's my opinion on it. Take it as you will, but yeah, like Web3 is going to be a thing. We just need to be patient with it.
Yeah, I agree, 100%.
Yeah, I
Now you go.
yeah, I definitely agree with like a lot of people are just trying to hop on trends. Like when we saw a lot of altcoins and just random like shit coins coming out. There's always go on this like
NFTs that are
yeah.
completely useless.
And it's
like,
it's the same thing with NFTs. We just saw like a giant surge in just people like jumping on the trend, trying to like make millions, but they're not actually solving any problems. Like kind of what you said.
Yeah, everyone wants to try to be trendy, right? It's why, Instagram models are a thing, and it's why people are trying to become TikTok famous and all these things. People chase the new and shiny thing, not necessarily the thing they're most passionate about.
All right. Next question. So, what is some advice you would give to someone who wants to get into digital design?
If you want to get into digital design, I would highly recommend trying to work with real life clients immediately. So, and this is why I think almost design contests are a good thing. So, in the creative space, design contests are almost frowned upon. Essentially, the reason I described before, because you're not always paid for your time. The plus side to design contests, and I think this helped me a lot in my early days of a designer, is you do get to actually communicate with clients. You have to learn how to present your work. You have to understand how to price your work. Like you understand a lot of the actual tangible things that come with being a designer, not just the actual design skills itself. I like to say it's a lot different being able to design than actually being a designer. They're two completely different skill sets. So I think you need to kind of understand what actually makes a good designer and practice that. Because everyone's practicing how to use Photoshop and Illustrator and all these other graphic tools. The things that you're going to miss is actually how to be the business person behind that. Because being a designer, the majority of your work is going to be a business person. It's presenting, it's storytelling, it's communicating, it's budgeting, it's project management, it's all that stuff.
so the skill's only like a small part of it, really. Like how you've.
Yeah, sure. It's the soft skills that make the actual business.
Yeah.
And how would you what would you recommend for someone who actually wants to develop those skills? How would you help them through that?
Go to YouTube, Google. Like there's a lot of resources online. There's heaps and heaps. Just look at inspiration, copy people. Don't claim it as your own if you don't want to claim it as your own. But like, if you see a design that's cool, literally drag it onto your canvas and just copy it symbol for symbol. Copy it from pixel to pixel. Like that's how you learn. You learn by copying people, and there's no shame in that. You just need to learn to, not always write it off as your own if it's not.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right. And another thing. Well, what would you say is like your biggest failure in your personal career? Like your biggest mistake.
Um, we did a lot of, again, probably the software for PitchProof, just because the longevity of it wasn't there from the start. That needed a lot of cash. It needed developers, which are a real scarcity at the moment anyway, and it always have been. Like there was a lot of reasons why that was always going to fail. So like it did make sense when it did fail. So that was a little bit of a little bit of a learning point because it was something that got me into this space to where I am today, and it was something really passionate about. But it died and it died, but with that came a lot of learning lessons. So you take it with a grain of salt.
So you guys saw a problem in your business model and you pivoted.
Yeah, 100%. Well, otherwise, PitchProof would have died immediately. Just fortunately, at the time, we were already creating content online, and there was already some love for it. So it wasn't like we were going into something completely new without any traction whatsoever. Like there was some traction there, and there was some product market fit. So it was pretty natural to kind of shut down the platform as we kind of um, scaled up the content.
Mm. All right, this is a bit more personal. Who would you say was the most influential person for you?
That is a really tough one. I'd like to say my brother, mostly because he's a few years older than me. He's a software engineer, and he's done pretty similar things in terms of running his own business and being in the tech sort of space. Like we do play on different narratives. Like he's not a designer by any means. He's got that real problem thinking brain and that real engineering sort of brain. But um, like he's been real supportive and he's always been able to lend a hand and just show what's possible, so I think that's been really impactful.
That's number nine. But so so what did your brother have businesses too?
Yeah, so he was doing a similar thing, a bit of freelancing as like a software engineer, and then a few years ago he started his own software agency, and now they're a team of about 10 and quickly growing. They do a lot of, they do like the Shopify websites for brands like Filler or Thirsty Camel and those sort of big ones. So like, he does pretty well for himself. But yeah, like both of us are very much problem solvers, and we both love using tech and creativity to solve those problems. So they, even though we run in different circles, like they play hand in hand.
Could have hired him for PitchProof. Mm. But so when you did start PitchProof, what was like the early days? What was that like? Did you have the idea and people came to you, or did you find like your co-founders? Did you come to them?
Sure. So essentially, my goal with PitchProof, and this is where my brother actually helped out with the platform early on to get it to a very early working version. And then also, he got busy, so that was one of the problems why it was hard to scale anyway. And devs are so bloody expensive. So essentially, how it started was I had the idea on a Friday night, and I essentially stayed up to midnight, 1 a.m., and designed the whole thing. So did the mock-ups and the static designs for it all. And the goal we had was to reach 100 signups. So we created like a bit of a website for a bit of a waitlist, and it was like, hey, here's our product ID. If you want to join the waitlist to be the first to know when it launches, just put in your email. And the goal was to reach 100 email signups. So we knew there was some sort of market fit there, like people actually wanted the product. So over that weekend, I launched a website, I did the marketing campaign, I set up the Instagram account and all that. And then I launched it that Monday night. And by Wednesday night, we already had those 100 signups. And that was mostly just through organic social media posts, so Instagram, and also just outreaching people to designers directly and going, hey, I love your work. Here's what I do. And just, yeah, hopefully they would sign up. And that's how we got to 100 signups. And then, yeah, we started the process of actually building it and therefore building the community further, which then turned into online events.
I don't want to say wow, but
It's impressive, yeah.
yeah. Do you have like a Discord where you can kind of have like a more in-depth community of people who are actually interested in digital design? Do you have anything like that, or is it just all on Instagram and TikTok?
Yeah, it's mostly Instagram. We do have a Discord. It's not super active. I think it's got a couple of thousand people in there. But like the thing that kind of brings people together is our events, right? Like it's the place where, or it's the week of an event where everyone jumps into a particular Discord or Slack channel, and that's when the community actually gets a chance to come together. Apart from that, running other small events and other community-based stuff, it's mostly just delivering content. But yeah, like when you attend one of the PitchProof events, like it's much more than just watching a presentation on YouTube. Like it is a community event. People come together, they get to collaborate with one another, they get to chat with one another, and they all get to support one another for being designers.
This Okay. So, what is one piece of advice you would give to like a new entrepreneur in any space? Just one piece of advice you'd give to them.
Look, I think it's just honestly just showing up. Like just show up every single day. Like it doesn't have to be a lot every day. You don't have to give it your all every day. Just show up consistently. consistency always wins. It's the same with growing an Instagram account. It's the same with growing a business. It's the same with getting good grades in school. Consistency will always win. So just rock up consistently, and more importantly, don't be afraid to change. Like, we pivoted PitchProof 3-4 times before what it was today. Like, it started as something completely different. So don't be afraid to pivot.
And yeah, kind of going back, because I forgot to ask this earlier, but when you were actually when you became a digital designer at 16, and you started, sorry, and your grades started lacking, what was the process like for your family? Like, how was that like? How did your parents handle that and stuff?
Yeah, so I think they always knew that school wasn't going to be something that I really cared about, and they were okay with that. Both my parents didn't go to university. They just basically run work at small local jobs. Like, they're nothing, they're not entrepreneurs, so to speak. So, like, even though this kind of thing of being an entrepreneur and working for yourself and all this was foreign to them, I think they just knew that, my passion and dedication towards what I'm doing was going to be more than enough for that to take its toll. And, like, at the end of the day, like, I'm not going to be stupid, right? Like, if I can't afford my rent, I will go get a job. Like, I'm not, like, I don't care, right? I'm like, I'm going to do what I can to pay the bills. Like, I'm gonna work my ass off to do it. But, like, I don't see a better time for me to actually take the risk of actually being an entrepreneur and trying to grow something really big than now, because, like, I'm young, like, I don't have a family yet. Like, there's a lot of expenses that I do not have, even though it's not super cheap to live in Melbourne, right? Fuck you, prices, rent prices going up. But, like, even though it's not super cheap, like, it's not super expensive either. So the best time to actually take a risk, and it is a big risk doing what we do as entrepreneurs. Like, it is a big risk. Like, the best time to take that risk is now, because we're young and we're hungry and we can just work on that.
Mm. And so, was being a digital designer, was that always your plan B? Like, sorry, your plan A? Did you ever have a plan B to fall back upon, or were you just straight into that?
No, it was always that. Becoming an entrepreneur was kind of like unexpected in a sense. Like, I didn't really see myself as someone who would run a business. I didn't even know what entrepreneurship was until like 16 or 17, right? I never had heard of the word. It was foreign to me. Um, like, I always wanted to be a designer. Like, it was my bread and butter. It still is my bread and butter, I guess. Um, so yeah, I had no backup plans, but to be honest, I didn't want one.
Mm. And so, looking back now, do you think that was like responsible? Do you think you should have been like I mean, of course it succeeded, but let's say for someone else who is in a similar position, what would you say to them?
I would understand it, and it makes sense why someone should have a backup career plan, but I don't think it's practical for yourself. Like, if you have a backup, like, it's clearly something you don't want to do as much as the first thing, right? Like, I think if you want to be a doctor, don't and you really want to be a doctor, don't put your mind on anything else. Don't settle for anything less. Like, if you want to be an entrepreneur, if you want to be a designer, if you want to be a mechanic, whatever it is, don't settle for anything less. Like, if you are so passionate about something, you should just go and try to do it no matter what. Like, there shouldn't be a backup, because if you have something to fall back on, then you probably will, because there's not a high of a risk.
Mm.
Yeah, that's a good point. You're putting
Yeah.
like more thought into something else. Like, yeah.
Yeah, it's like when people like walk the tightrope, right? If they, I don't know, it's like, I don't even know if this is true, but I think it is. Like, if you practice like 30 centimeters above the ground, like, you're probably going to fall. But if you do it like 100 meters from the ground, like, you're less likely to fall, because, like, if you fall, you're dead. So it's like, you don't want to, it's responsible to give yourself a backup plan, um, dependent on what it is.
Mm. I think that also a backup plan. It also kind of depends upon like the person too. So if you're someone who's like more lazy or doesn't, really put too much effort in, I think that the idea of like going 100% or like die trying, I think that's very like it wouldn't work as well. But I think someone kind of like you, who's very entrepreneurial, just going straight into it, that's it's a good way for that.
So if someone is lazy and they're not giving 100%, you've got to ask yourself why they're not giving 100%. Because people will put a lot of effort in if they're actually passionate about something. If they've got a plan and they're lazy about it, they're probably not actually passionate about it. Like I know so many kids I went to school with who have gone to university and that's like going to be their career, but like they don't really give a shit about it because they're not putting a lot of effort into it and they're actually not passionate about it. And they probably know that deep down, but there's some other reason why they're not actually going to do anything about that.
Okay, and like kind of on those lines, what is really like the biggest excuse you hear coming from a lot of people who say, yeah, I want to be a millionaire and stuff, but what is the biggest excuse?
Like, I want to be successful, but like
Mostly it just requires work. Like, it's going to take too long. It's going to do this. Like, everyone's trying to catch the quick win. Um, and also, I don't think everyone's cut out for entrepreneurship, right? Like, entrepreneurship is very popular. It is very trendy, just like Web3 at the moment. You know, everyone wants to be an entrepreneur. Everyone wants to drop ship and create NFTs and all this other hoo-ha, right? Everyone wants to do it because it's trendy. Not everyone's actually cut out for it. It's a really, really, really tough industry to be in. Um, so I think majority of the time it just gets too tough for people and they don't actually realize how much work it actually requires.
Mm, that's a good take. I think we're kind of moving to the end, but I told you to bring a quote and a book. Well, what's the book?
Sure. I actually had a quote for you, not a book, but I've got a couple of suggestions. Which one would you like to start with?
Oh, we'll go with the quote. We'll go with the quote.
Should go with the quote? Okay. My quote is, "You are the average of the five people." Actually, hold on. What is it? Let me cut that bit. I'm going to Google it because I can't remember it.
What the heck?
I know what it is. "You are the average of the five people you spend the most time with." It's a quote by Jim Rohn. And the idea behind it is the people in your, close circle, those five people who are the closest to you, that's who you essentially are. The attributes of those people makes up you. So for example, if you're in a circle, and high school is a really good example of this because there are a lot of cliques and there's a lot of different personalities there. If you're in a group that's very toxic or very egotistic, like chances are, even if you're not that person at heart, like you'll probably end up becoming that person or showing those traits because that's your circle. That's the people you're being easily influenced with, even if you don't actually understand that.
I think like as a cleaner way to say that would be like, show me your friends and I'll show you the future. Like,
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
But yeah, it's a good point actually.
Yeah. So, for you, when you were a teenager, did you have like an inner circle of friends that you kind of discussed business with, or was it only you?
Yeah, it was only me, unfortunately. Like, my friends were very sporty. They, loved to play sport. They loved to, just be active and be, anything sport related was their jam, really. It was not really business, and I didn't know anyone in my year level or even below it who were very business or entrepreneurial orientated like me. So that's why it was kind of refreshing to come to the city and actually get to hang out with people who are older than me but are wanting to do similar things.
I think that's definitely a problem. Kind of like for us, we're rural New South Wales in Australia. It's quite difficult out here just trying to find people who are actually like interested in business.
We've gotten lucky.
Yeah, we've gotten very lucky. Like in our like
out of our
class.
friends, as well as like there's us and the parents.
Yeah, and I mean probably like in our year there's probably about like 20-30 boys. Probably about 5 to 10 of them are actually interested in business.
5.
Yeah, I mean, like, some are more
crazy.
interested, some aren't. But I mean, we've gotten very lucky with that. But I think it's quite a big issue for a lot of people who aren't actually able to get access to that. So would you say like what would you recommend for someone in that situation?
Well, I mean, like, use the internet, right? Like, even though I wasn't connected to a lot of business people in my local network, like, my God, I've been connected to a lot of people online. There's so many people I would love to meet in person and that I'm friends with online who run other businesses around the world that I haven't been able to meet yet simply because, I'm based in Australia and they're based elsewhere. Um, but what's interesting you mentioned there, and I almost think it's because you guys are a little bit younger, like this kind of side hustle, this kind of entrepreneurial spirit, I think is being a lot more lifted up in high schools directly. Yeah, I almost think like there's going to be more younger people kind of get into this space just because it's more prevalent at an earlier age. People are going online and they want to make money. They want to sell their craft. They want to do the niche things that they're interested in. And that just like it's always been available, especially for people my age. I just don't think it has been as popular as what it is for people a little bit younger than me. And I think that's probably a huge part of actually what's going on at the moment and why you guys probably have a larger amount of people in your circles that are actually interested in business and alike.
Yeah, okay. You said you maybe had a book or you don't have a book.
Sure. So the book is called Never Split the Difference, and it's about it's from a FBI hostage negotiator, and it talks about business and negotiation, and it's really good because it talks about like empathy and psychology, two very soft skills that aren't spoken about enough in business.
Mm. Yeah, I've read that book. It's actually I've read it a few times. It's pretty good, and I think now I forget the author, but now he consults businesses and actually teaches people how to
Oh, you were
what's the
telling
word?
me about him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, how to persuade and yeah, that's a lot of the time because like me personally, I'm very like I'm very interested in business, but even if you like see up on my bookcase, half the books I own are psychology books, and I think it's very underrated when it comes to business and stuff because business is people. I think we were talking about this a few months ago, but a lot of people don't actually they hear the word psychology, it's like, oh, that's like manipulative and stuff. But just
Or it's useless.
yeah, like but just understanding how people function, and this even helps me out a lot. Just understanding how people tick, is like it just puts you ahead of everyone else.
Yeah, 100%. Like, yeah, like you mentioned, at the end of the day, like the business is people, people are people, and if you can read people and you can understand people, then you've got a really good shot at building a good business.
All right, I think we've
No,
been
no, wait. I've got one
you've
thing. I
got
just need to find the thing. Um, okay, so in like really simple terms for pitch proof, right? Because it kind of went over my head a bit. In the most simple terms you can put it for like the average person, like, can you explain what they actually do? Like,
Sure, we run virtual events for designers.
but like, okay, so the events, what are you like? I just that doesn't. I don't.
Sure. So a lot of conferences, a lot of workshops. Our biggest event is Front Row, and essentially that has been well, it went from a 3-day conference to a 5-day conference where we essentially brought on a lot of different speakers and a lot of different industry experts, and they gave talks and presentations about, to teach other people in the community about their craft and kind of their tips and tricks.
All right,
so
yeah, that makes more sense to me. Yeah,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. So it's really just a place for designers to gather and learn about digital design.
Yeah, it's an education experience. Like it's like taking a class or something like that. But the content is very much not as structured as like a cohort or something like that.
All right. Well, we've been going for 50 minutes. It's been really good talking to you actually. Thank you for your time. And where can people, learn about you? Where can people find more of you?
Yeah, boys, and it's been good to chat. Honestly, just search me up on LinkedIn, Ryan Hayward, and you'll see this mug rock up on your page somewhere up there. Yeah, just feel free to connect with me if you want. Happy to have a chat to anyone. And yeah, huge fan of younger people like you getting into entrepreneurship. And any way I can help you guys and your audience kind of take the leap and do something they're really passionate about and kind of just do something different and solve big problems, then I'm here to help.
Mm. And so, people who actually are interested in digital design and they want to come to one of your conferences, is it pitchproof.com? Is that the website?
Just go to our Instagram. Go to the URL changes all the time depending on the on the conference. Just go to our Instagram at PitchProof, and you can chuck us a follow and keep up to date.
All right. Well,
it's gonna be 20 for that shout out.
But thank you for your time. We've had a great time talking to you, and have a great day.
Yeah, it's been a great chat though.
You wanna say bye to the people watching? Kind of a outro.
Sure. Thanks everyone for watching the not financial advice podcast. Hope everybody has a good rest of your day, and keep it real.